Hi, I'm Kristen Oaks-White.
And I'm Avery Davidson. Thank you for joining us for This Week in Louisiana Agriculture, the only TV show bringing Louisiana farmers and consumers together every week.
The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is in the process of closing the Bonnie Carey Spillway near New Orleans. This comes after the Corps opened the spillway for an unprecedented second time in a year.
It's a powerful reminder of how much water we've had to deal with in Louisiana. While the river is receding, the impacts on our state remain. As TWILA's Neil Melancon shows us, the shrimping industry has not fared well with all of this fresh water coming downriver.
The Bonnie Carey Spillway is finally being closed along the Mississippi River, which has been at or above flood stage for the longest period in recorded history this year. While the spillway prevented New Orleans from being flooded, it wreaked havoc on the state's fisheries. Further west, those same waters coming down the Atchafalaya River severely impacted the state's shrimp industry. Thomas Olander is getting his boat ready for the start of the shrimping season, but sees little prospects right now.
It's causing such a major dead zone in our inland waters and our offshore waters. So that's the biggest effect that it's having on us right now, creating this dead zone.
Hurricane Barry came ashore right here in Sycamore Point, where Olander normally delivers shrimp. You can see from the water levels this was a much bigger deal here than further inland. Barry blew the roof of this shed off, across a road, and into the canal where Olander normally refuels. It's still there, now less than a week before shrimping season begins.
I'm not able to get back to my dock. Here's our seafood dock right here. My sister owns the seafood dock, and this is where we get our ice, and this is where we do our unloading, our product.
Adding to these woes is the low prices shrimp has received throughout the last decade plus. Olander says he's getting less for his shrimp now than he did in the 1980s. These docks that used to be filled with shrimp boats are now mostly empty of the shrimpers that used to be here. Olander said if he could, he'd join them.
To be honest, if I could get out of it, I'd leave it today. If I could get out of it. It's taking too much of a toll on us physically, mentally. The toll is just getting out of hand on us. The stress level is just getting out of hand. I wish I could get out of it today, but because of the industry being so bad, vessels like what I have right behind me right here, is the value of it is it's not even worth even getting rid of. You probably couldn't hardly give that away right now.
For now, he and his wife Lola work the boat named after their son, who they hoped would take over this fourth-generation family business. Tommy got out, though, after only 3 years in shrimping, as it was just too expensive to maintain. It's something Thomas Olander sees happening across his industry. A new bill introduced by senators from Louisiana and Mississippi is supposed to help coastal fisheries, but Olander fears it's too little, too late.
Man, that would be a blessing out of this world if they could start helping us to just at least keep us in the business until, because things could change quickly. On shrimping, in 2-3 weeks, things could drastically change in the shrimping business. It could go from mountaintop to the lowest valley you ever want to walk in.
The shrimping season in Louisiana is tentatively scheduled to begin August 5th. The season will open with a new shrimp labeling law, which requires restaurants to say whether or not they're using Louisiana-caught shrimp. The legislature passed the bill after it was shown we were getting inundated by Chinese-caught shrimp, often containing antibiotics to keep them bacteria-free after the weeks it takes to get them from the Pacific to the U.S. Olander told us at most they stay out 2 to 3 days in Louisiana, and they never use antibiotics on their shrimp. In addition, he says you can taste the difference between the locally caught shrimp and not. And guys, you know, I know we've gone through a lot of struggles across farming, and in many of the grain states and producing areas and farmers even in Louisiana, you know, some of those farmers may not be around next year. What we're talking about with Louisiana shrimping industry is whether the industry stays or not. In the 1980s, he told me there were all kinds of not only shrimp boats, you saw the empty docks in the video, they also had the ice houses and the collection points and everything that they needed to support that industry. They're down to one ice house and one market along those docks there in Sycamore Point.
Wow.
And he estimates that right now we're looking at about 6% of shrimp in Louisiana being from Louisiana, the shrimp that you're eating at restaurants.
Wow. And where you were, Sycamore Point, that's my old stomping grounds. Sandy and Richard Longyon there used to run the supply house. Now they're over at the Bayview. And to see the changes that have happened there at Sycamore Point and what's going on now, the struggles they have, even being able to get out with their boats. I mean, it's unbelievable the impact not only the freshwater is having, that the markets are having, but also what the storms are doing.
Right.
Are they still struggling from what they had to go through with the oil spill?
Yes, he said that the oil is still out there. He says that, in his opinion, there are still oil spills going on out there that are just not closed down. They can see it. They're dealing with debris in the water. They're dealing with all kinds of things. For instance, he estimates that 90 to 95% of the shrimpers out there, their boats aren't insured.
Wow.
Each one of those is $250,000. I mean, if one of them gets hit, that's the end of their shrimping career right there. You know, I mean, they certainly can't afford to get a new one. And I mean, when he was talking about reselling his boat, he would get less than half of that, you know, for trying to sell it. So they're up against a wall. And you know, on the one hand, I really think that it would take multiple things to get it back going, and that's really difficult. But on the other hand, I mean, isn't this part of our Louisiana tapestry? Isn't this part of our culture? Do we want to save this or not? And so we've got to make some decisions here on the state and federal level as to whether or not we want that locally grown stuff, or we want to trust China to bring in our shrimp for us.
Well, at least the legislature has taken one good step with that labeling law. Thank you very much, Neil Melancon.